Putin is running out of money for the war. US sanctions have hit Lukoil and Rosneft hard, and their effects have now reached even the provinces. Russian regions have started to run out of money to pay contract soldiers for the war in Ukraine. In Yakutia, due to a budget deficit, payments to so-called participants of the special military operation have been suspended. To increase the flow of cannon fodder to the war, just a few months ago the region significantly raised the amounts paid to contract soldiers. In June 2025, the governor of Yakutia, Aisen Nikolaev, signed a document that increased the payment from the Yakutia budget to almost 2 million rubles. In addition, municipal districts and urban okrugs committed to paying servicemen at least an additional 400,000 rubles. In addition to regional payments, contract soldiers are also entitled to 400,000 rubles from the Russian Ministry of Defense. Thus, the total amount of one-time payments can reach almost 3 million rubles. But as it turns out, there is no money for the promised mountains of gold. Another unpleasant surprise awaits Russians at the beginning of 2026. Economists advise citizens of the aggressor country to prepare for an inflation shock due to tax increases. Despite the fact that Putin repeatedly promised not to raise taxes until 2030, the dictator's expansionist ambitions turned out to be stronger than his empty promises. And now the Russian budget will increase the VAT rate from 20% to 22%, which will put Russia among the top countries in the world in terms of this tax rate. At the same time, the government is launching a radical tax reform for small businesses, lowering the threshold for the simplified taxation system to 20 million rubles in annual income. In addition, starting from September next year, a technology levy will be introduced in Russia, a tax that will be embedded in the price of equipment and electronics, including smartphones and laptops. A surge in prices for electronics, consumer goods, services, and fuel awaits Russians just in time for the new year. In the Kremlin, to sweeten the tax bill, they are preparing an entire propaganda campaign. The Financial Times reports that Putin has held a series of meetings on how to shift the blame for rising taxes in Russia onto the West. While the Kremlin looks for scapegoats, Russian oil is drifting at sea. The American sanctions that have come into force have led buyers to refuse shipments of Russian oil due to the risk of falling under secondary sanctions, leaving tankers stranded at sea. We're talking about roughly 50 tankers carrying oil from Lukoil and Rosneft, which as of Friday were either en route or had begun loading fuel, according to Bloomberg. However, nothing like this has happened in Russia for 8 years. The share of Russians with savings has dropped to its lowest level since 2017. Now, almost 70% of Russians have no financial safety net in case they lose their main source of income, which indicates a continued deterioration of the economic climate in Russia, according to the results of a survey conducted by the Public Opinion Foundation. But for the head of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, neither war nor crisis in Russia is a cause for concern. Despite the stagnation of the economy, the Chechen leader is actively building an elite district named after Putin in Grozny.